No, you're not.
Okay, and welcome to the latest episode of Dropping the Hammer with Daniel McFadin. I'm Daniel McFadin, and with me, as always, is my friend and co-host, James Crow. Say hi, Crow.
Hello, everybody.
And along for the ride, this time around the track, is my boss and friend, Thomas Bowles. Welcome to the show, Thomas Bowles.
Oh, nice to be here.
Do you prefer Thomas or Tom?
I do prefer Tom, but like it's one of those things sometimes where people just start calling you by your full name if they just see it on a sheet, and then like I just have stopped saying that. I'm just like Thomas, Tom, whatever. It's fine with me.
Okay, so Tom, I'll just call you Tom for this purpose. But yeah, Tom is the owner, editor, operator, and overlord at frontstretch.com. And he is the guy who helped me put together a story that we're going to be talking about here pretty soon. That we got to kind of drive the narrative for a day, Tom. That was nice.
Yeah, we did. Nice. We drove the bus, and
so
yeah, that's always good. And as a journalist, when you have a story that you feel is a good story, unfortunately, it was bad news within that story.
Yeah.
But when you break it, the high that you feel from breaking it, and know that you did something that was really important. There's nothing that beats that.
All right, so we're recording this Thursday night, 4 days after the historic rain-soaked race at Circuit of the Americas in Houston, Texas. First time NASCAR Cup Series had been on the road course down there in Austin, Texas. We'll start with you, Tom. What were your just general impressions of the first Cup race on the 3.41 mile, 20 turn Circuit of the Americas?
Yeah, it was soggy. And I know that's not an emotion, but the rain really just made it more disappointing than it could have been. There were just stops and starts of really good racing. Obviously, drivers really concerned about the visibility. And then when they called it, it just was a weird time sort of for them to call it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And led to a lot of questions. And it was so much hype surrounding this race that I think it was going to be really hard to match the hype. But I think the best thing to take away from it is we need to learn how to race in the rain better. And we need to learn where the line is when the rain comes in.
Yeah, sunset, according to Google, was supposed to be like 8:23 Central Time. And so they called it like 3.5 hours or something like that before. I was like, come on, just give it a little bit more time. I have no idea when the rain actually stopped. So I really don't know whether it was a good decision or not. So, Crow, Chase Elliott won this race. What did you think of the little race down in big Texas?
I enjoyed it. It was definitely something different from anything I've ever seen. Seeing the Cup cars racing in like legitimately heavy rain.
No one's ever seen it before.
Yeah,
so that's part of the appeal.
Oh yeah. But it's not something I've even seen in any real like racing outside of some of the like open wheel cars, I guess. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I really loved like Ross Chastain just kept bombing the corners at one point. Oh, it was wonderful. But when they called it, it was weird because like they really should have called it after that wreck with Cole Custer.
Well, they couldn't have then. Well, they could have.
They should have stopped the race at that point. When you've had two wrecks at that point that are due to poor visibility, like and especially going back to Bristol Dirt, where they stopped it on lap 1 because of poor visibility, and here we're basically in the same thing.
No, that was the qualifying races.
Oh, qualifying race, yeah. So they canceled the qualifying race due to poor visibility, and now we're there were multiple accidents that were like blatantly because of poor visibility.
Yeah.
And they still didn't call it. And some of those were scary. And man, that Cole Custer, when he started getting out of his car, I thought he was going to get hit by somebody. Like that was terrifying.
It was just the first wreck was just bizarre, Tom. Like, first of all, like the first thing we're even realizing there's a wreck is like we're seeing drivers get out of cars. Like Bubba Wallace is getting out of his car. Christopher Bell's getting out of his car. It's like, what just happened? And like because of the poor visibility, there's never a good camera angle of these wrecks so we had to go off of like digital recreations of the wrecks based off of telemetry.
I know, that was amazing.
Any idea what happened?
Yep, it was like a video game on TV, but it shows how sometimes you take TV for granted because they usually have some angle somewhere, and it shows how much you lose when you don't have the visibility and you don't have that angle. And when you guys were talking, I'm thinking this weekend was a little Goldilocks and the Three Bears when it came to the Cup race, right? Like it was either hyper aggressive, these crazy wrecks with no visibility, everybody's jamming on these restarts, trying to get any position they can get. You had the horrible wreck with Truex and Custer, and people were just struggling. Or once the field spread out, once the field started to figure it out, it was kind of like a rainy Wednesday night on the highway or something. Okay, really got to focus on the road. I'm just going to run single file and just figure out how I can hit my marks and go forward. And I think that they really struggled to pass, and drivers just started to say, you know what, I'm going to try and get through this. And we didn't have that happy middle ground of there's a little bit of passing going on here, and people are comers and goers, and you're really starting to see them use the technical aspects of the track to pass. You know, I just think as the race went on, people got a lot more conservative, and that hurt the racing.
Well, man, really, like once the second stage was over, the early parts of the last stage were really actually good racing. Once like they sort of deranged the stretches anyway, and I believe Parker Kligerman used a term that's now my favorite racing term. He described that between like second and like ninth place was like a 10-car battle train. They were all pretty close together, and that's where you saw Chastain and like Kurt Busch and this group of drivers just constantly being around each other, and it was very entertaining. But yeah, after those two wrecks that brought out the red flag, I think everyone was kind of probably over. I mean, they were both properly reacting, but also overreacting, like saying, "Oh, no more rain races. No, just no more running in that heavy rain." We went over the red line. I think we can all agree on that. At least for the second stage, we all went over that red line.
Well, something with Harvick, I wonder what you guys thought about him being so angry after. And I thought about, Jeff Gordon. You remember what happened to Jeff Gordon in 2014, where Gordon had one of the best seasons that he had in a while, and he never made the championship four. They changed the format. Things didn't really work out for him. All of a sudden, Gordon was retiring the following year. Harvick's had a really bad year. We now are up to 7 road courses on the schedule. He feels like NASCAR made a terrible decision here, is in this horrible wreck, and then it's just like, this is the most unsafe I've felt during my entire career. I have not heard Harvick that mad in a really long time. I'm not jumping conspiracy theory and saying Harvick's retiring tomorrow or anything like that.
No.
It's just it's something to watch. I just think he's had a real frustrating year. That was a real low point. He's not a huge road course guy anyway. NASCAR's going, well, we're going to race in the rain no matter what. I wonder what you guys thought about his reaction.
Well, personally, Crow, you go first.
I mean, I guess I don't really know enough to like know how to take that specifically from him. But I will say is like, because I don't usually watch the races live because of just my schedule and stuff. So I heard about, the drivers being mad, and everything, and the clips and stuff I saw, like the wide shots, it really didn't. I think it's like, they're just being dramatic. But then actually sitting down and watching the race, and especially the Cole Custer wreck, it's like, oh yeah, they should have stopped it right there. Like, to me, it's like that was scary because when I saw him getting out of the car, and there's a stock car headed straight for him until it turns, that terrified me. And I felt like that's the point where like we need to call this until it's safe. So at that point, like I can definitely see where he's coming from.
Well, what's interesting, Tom, is like I just now thought about this. It's like Dustin Long was at NBC Sports, he's the one who got that soundbite from Harvick. But it really that moment for Harvick really kind of exemplified that he's, as the guy who took over for Dale Earnhardt, he's kind of now the Dale Earnhardt of the garage, in a weird, everything comes full circle kind of way. So like he I think people are going to listen to him, especially on stuff like this. And like you said, I can't remember last time I saw him that upset. But I think he was completely justified. But it was weird. This comes like, what, a month and a half or so after Bristol, where he was like, man, I haven't had that much fun in a long time. So, but yeah, I think that really like showcased Harvick's role in the garage at this point in his career.
That's a very good point. And you look at his age, he's at the age where Jimmy Johnson was done. Tony Stewart was done. Jeff Gordon was done. He signed through 23. It's just, these are the types of things I feel like when you get to that age and you're having a winless year and you're struggling already and you weigh those things. I think that if you asked Jeff toward the end of his career, what were you weighing? And I think when people feel like they're starting to slide back a little bit, you stop and you go, what is the work here? Get back to where I was. What is the work required here to get back to where I was? And Stewart-Haas clearly has problems. We'll see. I mean, Harvick has certainly turned things around in the second half before, but right now I wouldn't put him as a top tier championship contender. You may see changes with Almirola at the end of the season. You may not, but Stewart's off running the SRX series and doing some other things. It's just, it's an interesting storyline to watch and see if this frustration lingers or if he turns it around this weekend on an oval and everything's fine and it's like nothing around.
Okay. But yes, Chase Elliott ultimately came out this win. What is it? That's 5 of 6 road course wins for Chase. Tom, is that right?
That is.
Gosh, that's like, he wasn't going to win that race. He was 2 laps short on fuel. But they called it. He's the winner. It's his first win of the year, comes 14 races into the year after he's the champion. So this is still a very bizarre year. The guy who's at the top of the points, Denny Hamlin, still hasn't won. So but Hendrick Motorsports was enjoying a 2-week siesta, honeymoon phase, whatever you want to call it. They were having a good time. 2 straight wins. They had their 1, 2, 3, 4 finish at Dover. Now all 4 other teams have won at least one race this year. And then Tuesday happens. So, Tom, when did you first see my text messages to you? Tuesday night, Tuesday morning, whatever.
So you're a night owl, and I'm in the middle of this SRX project that I'm working on for CBS. So I was exhausted. And so I'd gone to bed, I think 15 minutes before you started texting. So you found these Reddit posts that were insinuating something was going on with Eddie DeHaan, and there were some tweets out there. So I woke up to all these different text messages, and why don't you go through your thought process in terms of how you look at that and then go, oh, wait a minute, this might be a story.
Well, I mean, I'm about to go to bed. Like it's after midnight my time, and I'm just scrolling through Twitter, and I see one thing I've done in the last few months, I guess, pretty much since I left NBC Sports, is I followed a lot of just like fan accounts, like people who don't have large followings or anything, but just everyday fans. And so I started to see, I saw one person tweet like, I can't believe that Chase Elliott spotter Eddie DeHaan assaulted a pregnant woman. I was like, what? what is this? At like 12 o'clock at night, I'm like, that can't be a real thing. And I like scroll a bit more, and then I search Eddie DeHaan on Twitter, and then I see more tweets. Is like, where is this coming from? And then I see someone replying to another tweet with screenshots of like some webpage with information describing what Eddie DeHaan allegedly did. It's like, where is this coming from? And then finally, I figure out that there's like a Reddit post that with a link to the North Carolina court system's website and court docket for Eddie DeHaan for 2 dates in June for allegedly assaulting a woman and battery on an unborn child. And I'm like, what is going on? So I start searching, trying to figure out, okay, if Eddie DeHaan was arrested, who arrested him? So I'm trying to figure out if it's the sheriff, if it's Hickory, who. I finally find it on Hickory PD's website that, okay, he was arrested on May 12th, which was the date that was on the court docket. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is a thing. And so I write up an email to Jesse Essex at Hendrick Motorsports detailing mugshot. There was a mugshot.
Yes.
Someone also had a
Very
mugshot.
important thing. I was waiting for you to bring that up.
So mugshot. We never linked to it in the story, and I just forgot to do that. But there was a mugshot of Eddie DeHaan. So we had that. So I write up an email explaining what I found to Jesse Essex. I linked the court docket. I linked to the mugshot. I asked him, Eddie DeHaan had, if this arrest happened on May 12th, he competed the next two, or he didn't compete. He was at the next 2 races. And you're supposed to notify NASCAR within X amount of time, 72 hours, if you've been arrested for a misdemeanor or a felony. So, and we never heard anything about this. So, and I asked them, did Hendrick Motorsports, were they aware of this? And why was he allowed to compete in those 2 races and whatever? And so I send that at like 1 a.m. And then right before I go to sleep, you know what? Okay, I'm going to just write up 4 graphs as if I'm writing the story, and just to have it, just in case. And then I send it to you, just in case you get up before me. So you have a day job, so you're going to get up before me. And
what was weird about that was, I didn't have anything super stressful or anything go on that day beforehand, but I typically will sleep. So my hours start, I'm a later in the day type of person. So with work from home and with all of the different things I balance between front stretch and other clients, I usually don't wake up until like 9-ish and then start my day around 10. So like I typically wouldn't have been up for a couple more hours.
Oh wow, okay.
And then I'm up really late. Like my workday didn't usually end until like 7 or 8. So like for whatever reason that night I wasn't getting good sleep. And so I woke up at 7, which I think really helped us because I was like, I saw this, I was like, oh, we need to move on this. And so before I got back in touch with you, you're reporting to me and I'm like, all right, let me start taking a look. One of the first things I do, and as a reporter, it's just always been the nosiest part of me, is I start checking social channels anywhere and everywhere. And you don't believe everything that you see on social, but at the same time, you're looking to see certain patterns and trends. Like for example, DeHaan's Twitter was down, the Instagram was down. I could tell with certain posts that like you couldn't, or I shouldn't say the Instagram was down. The Instagram was locked, it was private, but Twitter had gone away. And there were certain things that seemed to indicate that something had happened in the last couple of days that was important, that made him want to change his social profile. So that was one thing that I was looking at before I started talking to you. And then another thing that I was looking at is like you had given me the Hickory Police Department's thing. So I was looking at, the same stuff that you were looking at on their county website.
Oh yeah. I forgot. So I forgot to mention. I'd sent you like the phone number for the Hickory's, the police officer's public information officer's number. Call them, find out if it's true or not, whatever. So yeah, you had that. So
yes. And so I'm looking at that and I'm trying to figure things out. I'm clicking on links. I'm like, can I get back to a place where I can get more information, doing some of the same stuff that you were doing in terms of like looking up particular things, like, can I get a public incident report? In North Carolina, you're supposed to, every time a police officer makes a report, it's public knowledge, and you can get that off of the county website. And we were looking to see if we could find out more information. Okay, misdemeanor assault on a female, as Crow's showing, that's a big deal. And especially the next one, battery on an unborn child, holy smokes. So we're trying to figure out, can we find incident reports?
Yeah, that was a new one to me.
Yeah, I'd never seen that before. Have you guys seen that before? I had not.
Nope.
No. So I'm like,
never seen battery on an unborn child.
Yep. So I'm like, well, something big's going on here. And like, I'm going through, I'm sure you did the same thing. I'm going through every incident report from like May 1st on, just clicking, going through, seeing if I can find it, doing search terms, targeted search terms to try and figure out, can we get this report? Because I mean, that's really a big difference, right? Like that's the difference between just saying it on Twitter and just running with it and then starting to really put together the facts of the story, like confirming that the report's accurate.
Yeah, like there was like early in the morning, very like when I first woke up, there were people who were like still like tweeting out screenshots and stuff saying, "Hey, this happens." Like, okay, that's cool. You guys tweet out your screenshots. I'm gonna go get context at screenshots. So yeah, I was not gonna tweet a darn thing about this until I knew exactly what was going on, or some version of what was going on. But like once I got up and we talked on the phone, like you kept to the like the public officials angle, and I went over to talk to NASCAR and try to get back in touch with Hendrick. And I'm really glad that we did that, because I'm really not personally that great with public officials. Like I'm not a sweet talker person. Like I can. Hey, can just slide the documents across the table? Come on. I'm that's not my personality. So, but I called up a NASCAR, PR official and detailed the situation to him, and like after I finished that, it's like he says, "Yeah, this is the first I've heard of it." And so it's like, oh, the second time that me and the PR official got together, he says, off the record, NASCAR was not knows nothing about this. They were not told. It's like, okay, so we are in a good place on that angle, because that's for me, that's like a very important part of this, is if NASCAR doesn't know about it. So because they're supposed to notify him if you're arrested with me. So and so Tom, explain from on your angle, like what you were doing with the county clerks and stuff like that.
Yeah, on my end, I call up the clerk the first time, and she's super sweet. And basically, so the goal is, when you're a reporter and you're trying to figure out this information, we see the court dates on file online, but what we want is an incident report. I want to be able to read what exactly happened. We can A, put that in the story, and B, it's official confirmation that this went down. And so, first time she's like going through and she's like, oh, I can't really figure this out. And like, she's like, it's on here and it should be here. She's like, I don't know why it's not here. And then she started talking to me about how the battery of an unborn child thing sometimes causes protection to get triggered. And she's like, that could be what happened here. She's like, in North Carolina, certain assault cases can end up sealed. She said, so, I don't know why the report's not here. She's like, but, I can tell you that if it is on this website and your links are legit, the case is legit, just for whatever reason, go back and do one more check of the incident report. You can find it publicly. She's like, I'm looking at my records and I can't see it. So that caused a little bit of a holdup for us, right? Because we're trying to get over this hump. And at this point, we have other people involved. Like sometimes people think now you just throw something on Twitter and it's gold. No, there's a whole process behind this. So we have my contact director is involved, and we're trying to figure out, hey, is there enough to publish here? And, how can we further verify? We do figure out the date of birth on the website is February 18th. Yeah. And, we confirm that, I think by about 9:00 Eastern, we confirm that Eddie DeHaan's date of birth is February 18th. So not a lot of DeHaans in the world. It's not like it's a Smith, right? Like,
but it still was my fear, like in the back of my head, like, what if there's another Eddie J. DeHaan running around the Charlotte area? Like, like what would the odds be? So,
Exactly. And you don't want to be wrong. Like, this is not something. This is somebody's. We post the story, and within 2 hours she's suspended. So you don't want to be wrong on that. And so it's like, we're trying to figure this out. And so I think you went back to Humphrey again, and then I ended up calling this woman back a second time. And like you said, there's a lot of sweet talking that goes on when you're reporting. Like you don't, sometimes you need to try and get to where you need to go. And she's finally like, you know what? Let's bring the city clerk into this. She's like, we're gonna have to figure this out. She's like, because I don't know why I can't see the case. So she transfers me over to the clerk, and then I start talking with the clerk, and we go through the case numbers, and she's like, oh, here it is. And she's like, your case numbers are accurate. She's like, the charges are accurate. She's like, problem is, based on the laws of the town, I can't fax or email you the reports. She's like, can you come in sometime today? I'd be happy to share them with you. And I'm like, well, can't really drive 10 hours to where this is to come in. Like, really nice of you. I'm like, but I can't really make that. And so what I do to confirm it is I ask a bunch of questions, and then she gives me some off the record answers. Did you read the full report to me word for word? No, but she gave me enough that I could then go back to you and say, hey, listen, this is legit. I know this is legit. Let's take this and let's write it up. But we needed more, right? Like, and that's what we were working on with the rule book.
Yes. And like before I talked to Matt Humphrey for the second time, like there were people in our Slack channel going, just publish it, just do it. It's like, I want to know before we hit publish whether NASCAR knew about this. Like that was my hang up. I needed to know if NASCAR had any idea. So the second we were told, off the record at the time, we did not know. It was like, all right, we're good. So so we hit publish, and I tweeted it out at 9:53 a.m. And then we had about how long was it? 10 minutes of panic?
Yeah, we did, because so we tweeted out at 10 of 10. And I feel very confident at this point. Like so our content director Mike Massey reads the story. Our news director Kevin Rutherford reads the story. Both are like, this is great, we should do this. And then Beth Lunkenheimer, who's my number 2, reads everything. She helps us with the rule book. She finds what we need in the rule book. We're all good there. So I feel very confident. And then we have another national reporter.
Yeah, well, we just no names. We don't need to.
Another national reporter that questions the story in very bizarre way of questioning the story.
Yes.
Just claims that he can't get to the website that was out there from the night before, saying this is not accurate. You should check your sources. I can't get there. And
no, he said it wasn't the real website. That's what it was.
Yeah, said that we were reporting on what wasn't a real judicial website, which I have to give our colleague a lot of credit. Zach Sterniolo thought of an amazing idea and just literally took a video of how you get to that page that many other people, starting with Reddit the night before, had gotten to first trigger the story to try and get more information. So he takes a 30-second video and posts it to this national reporter to show the reporter. I'll just say to show the reporter how to report, and that's how far I'll go. And so
I'm glad I did not personally engage in that. I was like, I'm just gonna let the story speak for itself. So.
Yeah, and I'm older now, and I think that one of the things I've learned in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years is like, you're never going to be universally liked, and there's a risk to go down in the sandbox with people. And you go down in the sandbox with people, you may feel like you're clearing your name, you're standing up for yourself, but sometimes people just view it as you're going in the sandbox with people, and it doesn't really help things in the end. So it's like, all right, on this, I did retain. Yeah, you said 10 minutes of panic. I really felt confident the whole time. I mean, because
we were on the phone. I could hear the doubt creeping into your voice. Like, no, this is not happening. Because I was going through it.
So the doubt didn't come from the fact that I didn't think the story was accurate. The doubt came from, is this trouble going to last the whole day? Is this going to be a back and forth that lasts the whole day? Because here's what I was worried about. What I was worried about was the story is published. Hendrick tries to deny the story for whatever reason, even though it's out there, right? And so, then it's getting out there. It's getting more popular. I mean, because as soon as we threw it out there, several thousand people start reading. And so, it's got Hendrick's got to answer now. And so, I was like, are they going to do some sort of cryptic denial? And then it's kind of left there where for some reason you have another national reporter questioning the story. And then it just becomes this unnecessary, in my opinion, tit for tat about legitimacy of a story that's very clearly legit.
But there were he had somewhat valid reasons for why he was questioning, because the URLs on the judiciary website for North Carolina are weird, because you have the main page, which is .gov, but if you click out anywhere else on the website, it goes into this very kind of long string URL that doesn't look anything like that. So that's why he probably thought it was fake or whatever. But also, if you search for Eddie DeHaant's name, the only way it would come up is if you spelled his last name without the hyphen. So just DHONDT, no hyphen. That was the only way. So that also threw kinks into it. So
let me tell you, I've never seen an apostrophe make more of a difference in a story, right? Like, it really, because the way that all of the reports are, even if you look at the reports, I mean, some have the apostrophe, some don't have the apostrophe in them. Like, and if you had to type the name without the apostrophe to get to where you needed to go on that particular webpage, for sure.
So it was bizarre, but we had this 10 minutes of panic. But at 10:25 a.m. Central Standard Time, 30 minutes after we hit send, the statement goes out from Hendrick Motorsports saying that we became aware of this morning, blah blah blah. Mr. DeHaant has been suspended indefinitely from his duties with the team, blah blah blah. It's like, thank you. So,
yes.
Touchdown.
Then you have the sigh of relief, because then you've been, supported and you move forward. And then things move pretty quickly from there. I don't think it was long before NASCAR suspended him after that.
No. Well, you're right. Yeah, NASCAR put out its penalty report. And then really that was where our reporting pretty much ended on this. So other reporters like Bob Pockris went out. Jerry Jordan at Kicking the Tires went out, somehow got PDFs of the arrest warrants. I don't know how he did that. Good for him. Bob got more affidavits, and there was more reporting on the story involving the situation with the owner of a jet ski rental company there in the Charlotte area, and the altercation between Eddie DeHaant and her, and it's turned into a he said she said thing. So this will play out in the courts, whatever. He's got 2 court dates next month. But regardless of what legally happens, Eddie DeHaant failed to notify NASCAR about his situation, and that's bad for him.
It is. And he's a guy that's been around a long time. He's not just Chase Elliott spotter. I mean, he used to be GM of Evernham Motorsports way back when, when they were with Dodge. He's a long-time friend, confidant of the Elliots. He used to work with Bill Elliott. He spotted for Jeff Gordon. This is a guy that's been in the garage for decades. He, at one point, he was part of a nationwide series team, part owner. It was involved in a start and park effort at one point on the Cup side. So he's been around. And Tommy Baldwin, I believe he's worked with Tommy in the past as well. So this is a guy that is pretty big guy in the garage, and a guy a lot of people know. And you saw that in the reaction with Sirius, because Larry McReynolds, when the news broke, I think you shared one of the clips with me, and he was taken aback as somebody that personally knew him. It was like, wait a minute, this is my friend that I would never think would have done anything like that. So I think there's a lot of reverberation in the garage here that'll be interesting to see what happens this weekend, because people will be asked about it. People will be talking about it. This was not a guy that sat in a corner. This guy that knew a lot of people and influenced a lot of people.
Well, I mean, we're recording this Thursday night. Tomorrow's going to be an interesting day at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So somebody's going to be able to put a tape recorder in front of some Hendrick official and say, so how did you guys not know about this for 2 weeks? And they're going to have to come up with they said in that statement, we became aware of this morning. So they're going to have to provide some other reassurance that they did not know before Tuesday when I emailed Jesse Essex. So
so I've been thinking about this, right? So okay, we're in this work from home environment. Yeah, I'm very interested to see what you think, Crow think. I'm think about other people I work for, other situations. So let's say somebody has something happen to them, like somebody gets arrested, goes out to a bar that's open, just opened after COVID restrictions eased, gets arrested overnight, and then shows up to work the next day. In a work from home situation, you're on a Zoom, right? Like nobody knew where you were the night before. You're not necessarily sitting in an office together. So how are people going to know of your arrest, right? Like people would have had to have seen you at that bar and had somebody report the story to them, or they would have to maybe look it up online and it pops up in a police blotter or something like that. Mm-hmm. So part of me is like, okay, you could hide this for 2 weeks. And then the other part of me is, well, these guys all travel together. We've been in that environment. Yeah. Daniel, you've been in it. I've been in it for years, where I was traveling 27, 28 races a year. And you get really close to people. And wouldn't you notice a change in personality at the very least? It's something weighing on them. And the social media channel going down, to me, Twitter not being around, we don't know exactly when that got taken away. That's a factor to me too. Like, wouldn't you see something? So I'm very torn. I'm very torn as to whether people say, okay, I didn't know this. Could you get away with this for 2 weeks in the COVID environment?
I mean, it's entirely possible. He's a spotter. I don't know how much time spotters spend at the race shop or anything like that. Like, this could just be a 1 day a week job ready to hunt, as far as I know. So it'll be interesting to hear what people say this weekend. I'm sure there's going to be there should be at least one press availability with a Hendrick official about this, but it's a weird situation. It's very weird as a journalist, because I do feel accomplishment. Hey, we broke a story, but it's not a great story. So somebody's having a very bad day because of this. Yeah. But we'll find out what happens with the legal process. But Crow, what was your feelings on this? Is like when you read the story after I sent it to you?
I mean, I'm happy to hear that you got to do something that made you feel accomplished as my friend. And really, that's the main thing. I mean, the charges are are obviously not great. I don't know. I'm always conflicted when you have this intersection of public and private, like, people. It's NASCAR. It's a public sport. But how far back in the garage do you have to go before someone's a private individual and should be treated that way? And so that's sort of kind of where I fall with it. And I'm not really sure. I feel like now this guy, as someone who's been around forever and is connected, was the GM of Evernham Motorsports, as you said. I didn't know that, but someone like that, I mean, I think they're definitely fair game for these kind of things. But like, if it was like his rear tire changer, I don't know about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, I've done a story like this a couple of years ago at NBC Sports, where we did something on like an underneath guy, I think on Germain Racing, being in some sort of similar situation. Yeah, no one, like, here's the thing: no one knows who Eddie DeHaan is when you get down to it. But he is the spotter for Chase Elliott, the most popular driver in NASCAR.
Yeah.
But no one really knows who the underneath guy is on it, Germain Racing. So there's it's a weird tier level. As you said, Crow, with how deep do you have to get into this? But I mean, it's a story regardless. A NASCAR employee was arrested and charged on these 2 assault and battery charges.
Yeah, and I think the not reporting it too makes it relevant because he didn't report it to his employer. Now we have to ask and because of what you're saying with the garage is fairly tight knit and people generally are going to know each other's business, like a small town. How did nobody know this for 2 weeks? At that organization, and at that point you start it's almost like the focus is almost more on Hendrick to explain how they didn't know.
Yeah, I mean that's for me personally. That's the big question surrounding all of this. I mean the alleged crime, yes, that's horrible if it happened. But for the purposes of me, Daniel McFadin, journalist, my big question about this whole situation is Hendrick. What's going on in your house or whatever. So, but we'll that question will get asked this weekend, and I can't wait to hear their reasoning for it. But Tom, what's your final takeaway on this whole saga that's took place over the last 48 hours?
When you were talking, I was thinking about college sports, how these types of investigations come up, almost like a college assistant that gets in a recruiting scandal. So. Sometimes that moves up to the head coach, and we talk about how much does the head coach know and how do they know it. And in some of these cases, the head coach is truly innocent, didn't know anything was going on. But sometimes you take the hit because it's a culture issue because you were responsible for hiring that person, right? And so you were responsible for hiring and keeping a person. Again, hypothetical, we have no way of knowing yet whether Eddie is innocent or guilty. It seems like it's he said, she said. There's a lot more evidence that needs to be presented. But for the purposes of this argument, let's say Eddie ends up guilty. So you employed someone that would go out and have this type of assault that if you say, oh, this person is accused of assault of an unborn child, I think most people in the world would just go, whoa, what's going on there? How did he have a job there? How was he protected for so long? And again, Eddie is somebody that has been around the garage a while, and he's not a 25-year-old guy that just
He's 62.
Yeah, he's been around a long time. And so, I mean, it speaks to work culture and it speaks to the type of environment. And it's really bad timing for Hendrick after the first 1, 2, 3, 4 organizational finish team that has really struggled to always have all 4 teams running at that level. And Hendrick has talked at length the last couple of weeks how on the same page everyone is, how everybody wants to be there for a long time. And I talked to Chase one-on-one fairly recently in April, and he's talking about how excited he is and how he feels like everything's just he hadn't won, but everything is just so comfortable within the company. This happens, this has impact, and it has impact internally, and we'll see how much it ruins the chemistry over at Hendrick or creates a potential situation there because Hendrick could face punishment if they knew.
All right. Well. I can't remember if I mentioned it, but the incident in question happened September 7th, Labor Day of last year, and he wasn't arrested until May 12th. So you have this very weird timeline of why he wasn't the arrest warrant wasn't issued until May. So, but I think that might be because police departments have had to prioritize different stuff during the pandemic, and that's just maybe when they got to it. So I don't know, but anyway, that's that on that. You can read that story at frontstretch.com. Right now, guys, it's time for our weekly segment. Crow, hit it. Yes, it is McDowell watch time, ladies and gentlemen. Michael McDowell, our Daytona 500 winner, had himself a very good weekend. He finished second in stage 1 at COTA, got stage points. I think for maybe only the second time, or for the second time in a race this year. I think he got stage points at Talladega, and then he wound up finishing 7th, recording his 5th top 10 of the year, and which is a career best for him. And he's been in NASCAR for almost 15 years. He's reached the 5 top 10 mark. So, Tom, what do you think of what Michael McDowell has been able to do so far this year?
Underrated in how he's been able to keep the momentum from Daytona, right? I think this is a guy that has been waiting and never stopped believing that the right opportunity would come along in a pack race or potentially a road race where he could come out on top and sneak away with a win. And he feels like a different driver. I think he sounds like a different driver. And, if he didn't have a win, he'd still be in the playoffs right now. And we're over halfway through the regular season. And I think that that's really notable how he's been able to keep it going. I think about when Michael Waltrip won the 500s and the rest of the year he's kind of
Yeah.
McDowell is a career high in top 10 finishes right now. And just to have another top 5 on his resume, I mean, that's huge. I think, is he going to make it past the first round of the playoffs? Probably not. But it's really a career year for the guy, and it's going to cement him in the sport for another year or two, at least with front row.
I bet I have to think that if I'm the 34 team, I'm cursing the fact that there's going to be qualifying this weekend, because if this was just another race this year, we'd have the whole formula thing, and he'd get to start up towards the front probably. But that's not the case. He gets a top 10 finish, and they're gonna have to qualify. Sort of like, dang it. So we haven't seen them qualify on an oval outside of Daytona this year. So it'll be interesting to see where they're at. We still got 1, 2, 5 more road courses. So, and he's finished in the top 10 both times on a road course this year. We got the Daytona regular season finale. It's set up for him. Like I've said this before, because of the schedule and all the road courses, it's set up for him to kind of like benefit from this formula in a way that maybe other drivers wouldn't have. And it all started with that Daytona 500 win. Like he's just kind of like bing, 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 just kind of nickel and diming it, thanks to the qualifying formula.
Yeah, but you know what? I always subscribe to what Jeff Burton said, put yourself in position to win, right?
Yeah.
And he has been taking advantage of the system. More power to him. They utilize the system in a way that's really worked for them.
Crow, I tried calling you after the end of the first stage to say, hey, man, our boy, he almost won a stage. So what did you think of what McDowell did Sunday?
Oh, I mean, I was impressed. I was confused, and this is another one of those things with the race coverage and I think the visibility, where at one point it was like he went from like second to like in the 20s, like 20th, 17th, something like that, and I just wasn't sure what was going on. But I mean, for the most part, yeah, I mean, he was running really well and just looked fantastic driving too. Like he wasn't in the lead, but he looked like he looked like the most confident driver out there at times.
Well, yeah, he has a history of road racing, and yeah. When he practiced during practice, like he finished in the top like 5 in practice. It was like, oh man, Michael, like I think I put it in the Slack, or maybe I tweeted it. It was like, Michael McDowell's gonna Justin Marks this race, isn't he? It's gonna rain, and he's gonna be like, "Hey guys, look at me!" And he sort of did. He sort of did. But yeah, we'll have qualifyings. When's qualifying for the 600? Is it Friday or Saturday?
I'm looking it up now. It used to be. Remember when qualifying was Thursday at Charlotte? It used to be so weird, you know. Yeah. And then Friday. I don't know if you ever got to experience this. Friday was always the crazy like day off day where like you'd always be able to do like sponsors would be around and your reporters would do all sorts of different crazy things. Like I remember I flew in like a World War II plane with Red Bull one year.
What?
Like, there were always opportunities to like do crazy stuff on that day off, and fans would go and shops would open up and they'd have like fan appreciation days, but nothing like that with COVID. It is Saturday. Yes.
Okay.
Saturday.
All right. Well, I'm fully on board for having qualifying on Sunday mornings. I know they have the Indy 500 Sunday, so that's probably why they're not doing it Sunday. But
Yeah.
I like what they did with COTA. Like, just do qualifying Sunday. Give fans more bang for their buck on race day. So, that's just my personal opinion on that. What do you think?
I don't mind the qualifying on Sundays. I definitely think that shorter race weekends are going to be the way to go post-COVID. I do think that at the same time, there is a way that you keep the hype up with more cars on track. I don't think we need to practice as much as we were practicing, but I wonder how COTA would have been, not just if there was no rain there, but if nobody ever had a lap on the track. I don't know. I think there's some times where practice is good. I'm somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, I wasn't really impressed with the way the drivers handled the track Sunday in the rain, given just how much rain there was. And like in my story that I did on Ross Chastain that came out Tuesday, he said he was surprised that he got the top 5 finish in that torrential downpour, but it was like, well, dude, you finished 5th in like an even worse downpour last year at Charlotte, and you've been in rain races at Road America and that infamous Mid Ohio race in 2016 that Justin Marks won. Why are we really surprised that you were one of the guys in the top 5? But like what Kurt Busch did to matrix his way through the 2 cars before going off track, that might have been one of those badass things I've seen in a car in the last few years.
That was so freaking impressive. That was like one of the saves of the year to me, which doesn't come out looking quite like the save of the year, because I don't know, on an oval, when you save it, you can really see someone save it. With Kurt, it was like, okay, he didn't hit anybody and he's going straight still, and that's great. But the skill there to not have plowed into somebody, especially in a race where people were plowing into people, I could not believe that.
There's also the awareness to get it out of the gravel before he slowed down fully, too. Because he got to the back of the pit into the more solid ground, and then so he could drive out. Because otherwise, because they like the announcer said, "Oh, there's your caution," but then he just kept going and got out.
Just kept going. Well, my dad brought up the point that the tread on his tires might have helped him get through the gravel in a way he wouldn't have otherwise. So that you have a confluence of events really in that situation. So okay, Coke 600. Gonna be a long night. Technically the Southern 500 is longer just by time, but it's gonna be 400 laps around a 1.5 mile track, Charlotte Motor Speedway. Do you get excited for the Coke 600, Tom?
I used to when it really meant something, those extra 100 miles where people would break and it was unpredictability of equipment. And I think now it's not as much of a mechanical test as it used to be. And it really leaves it susceptible to that year where Truex just stomped the field. It's something I'm worried about again this Sunday.
Yeah.
And it's not the same feel. This is dating myself a little bit. I know I'm getting old, but mid-90s, there was a race where Ken Schrader was dominating at 600, and he blew an engine the last 100 miles. And it was like, wow, okay, I guess he's not going to win that one. And I can't remember a 600 where there was a mechanical failure in the last 100 miles that made a difference. And I think that was really the original intent, right? Like true test of man and machine, who's gonna make it. And all these different engine builders trying to build for the 600, and Humpy Wheeler trying to get all these one race deals. You have the Indy 500 Charlotte double, which has gone away. I think that's really something that should come back. Now it's just kind of like a really long cookie cutter, and it's not the same.
Well, I wish the Indy 500 would push its start time back a little bit so that the Coke 600 could start at like 5 Eastern instead of 6 Eastern, because I really want more of a day to night transition, not a late evening into the night. So you get the chance to have 2 separate conditions in which everyone's racing and your cars change and all that. But like over the last 6 years that I've been covering NASCAR, like, I'm listening even this year. I mean, I'm listening in on Zooms for drivers, and we're asking these drivers the same questions about, oh, is the 600 miles, how different is it to the 500? How are you getting prepared? And like, there's for the last 5 years, they basically been saying the same thing. I'm not really doing that much. I drink some more water, just doing my normal routine, because it's not the endurance race that it was even 20 years ago. So,
Daniel, I think you need to get in there and just start asking random questions. What's your favorite kind of taco? It's like, is there any food is there any food you avoid before you get into a race car?
Well, no, I think I've actually asked. I've heard someone asked us that question before, but like we've run out of questions to ask about the specialness of the Coke 600 and all that, and it just seems like I think NASCAR's aware of it, and that's why they put so much emphasis on the Memorial Day aspect of it in the military. Tom, are you still here? Oh, okay. You stopped moving. Okay, I was like, did he freeze? Okay, no, but no, like NASCAR, they put this emphasis on the military aspect of it rather than the racing part of it, and I really think that's. I'm just now thinking this up right now. I think that's probably because they realized that 600 miles isn't what it meant 20 years ago.
They took an oval race away from Charlotte. They took 2 oval races away from Charlotte because the All-Star race is in Texas this year and hasn't been in Charlotte now for 2 years. So Charlotte, once upon a time, was one of the best 1.5 milers on the circuit. And it really was a challenge for the race car drivers, and it was a challenge for mechanical stuff. And I think a lot of times people hear reporters complain about NASCAR a lot, and I'm not one of those people. Just because this racetrack has started to suck doesn't mean that all the racetracks suck and NASCAR is bad. I think sometimes just things evolve, and certain tracks that weren't as good suddenly get really good. Like look at Chicagoland the last couple of years before we ended up not going to it. NASCAR really rewarded that one, right? But I think there's ebbs and flows of that.
New Hampshire's finally good. New Hampshire has been great the last 3 times we've been there. So whoever saw that coming?
Exactly. People were like, this track's never going to be good. And all of a sudden it starts to come and be really exciting. So I think you have an ebb and flow of these things. But Charlotte there was this whole navigation thing in the mid 2000s. And I feel like ever since they did that, I want to say 2005, they had this weird repave of the track there. And it never really recovered from that. It was the race in the fall of 2005 where all the tires blew and they almost called the race.
Oh, wait, they almost called it? Because I remember that race. I remember every time they exited turn 2, bam, into the wall. It's like something I didn't realize it was that long ago. I didn't know they almost called it. Is that true?
They did. They almost called it. That was, I feel like 25 cars hit the wall in that race, and you couldn't go more than 20, 25 laps without anybody blowing a tire. It was the Brickyard 400 debacle before there was a debacle. So
okay,
you had that, and then I feel like Goodyear got really conservative with the tire compound. The car tomorrow happened, which was horrible on intermediate, and it took a long time to recover from that. And they've just never gotten the racing going there. And once again, just modern technology and just the way the racing series has come out. When you're doing the lower horsepower package, you're really not putting a lot of stress on your equipment. You're just not. And you could go a lot longer, I feel like, without breaking anything. And I just think that it's really taken away, just a lot of factors have taken away from the 600 being a crown jewel. Now it's just a really long race. All right, I guess you get an extra 10 points for winning another stage, And so, I'm hoping that because of the current handling package for the intermediates, that maybe we get a ton of good restarts and some action that happens there that kind of keeps them bunched up in some short runs. You're not going more than 100 laps without caution. So but I don't know about you, but I'd be shocked if the big guns don't dominate this one. I mean, if you're looking for a Cinderella, it's not going to happen. on Sunday.
Yeah, like I guess let's get into picks. I'm going with Larson. Like he's too good on intermediates right now. He's too fast. Should have won Atlanta, but his tires went away, and he should like have like 4 wins at this point, right? I mean, he could have won to Kansas, so that's my pick.
That's every Larson season, though, right?
Well, I mean, he has 3 straight second place finishes.
Yeah.
So he's second place Larson. That's what he is.
Yeah.
But you know what, guys? I wrote about this week, actually, in my front stretch column. If you were Kyle Larson and you were sitting here a year ago and somebody told you end of May 21, you're going to have a win. You should have 4. You're going to have one of the most laps led in the Cup Series. You're going to be challenging for the title. You're going to be with Hendrick.
And stage wins, right?
Yeah. Insane amount of success. You would have taken it in a heartbeat. It's pretty amazing how quickly he's settled in, and he's honestly top contender. I would even put him above Byron right now at the Hendrick camp. I put him above Chase. I put him above Byron.
Who
if he can learn how to close races.
Multiple choice. Whose season would you rather be having right now? Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson.
Oh, that's a really good one. I actually think I would go with C, because I go with Kyle because you have the speed and you've only been with this team for 3 months. So I feel like the upside there is so high that you could just keep going. Whereas Truex, yes, you know what you've got. Let me put it this way. You've been a lot better this year, but you've got with James Small. And they had the speed last year. They just didn't necessarily have the luck, and Small was still learning his role. And, I just think with Denny, he hasn't won yet, and I think that's starting to wear on him a little bit. And they peaked early. They really haven't been that great lately. Last month has been kind of off for them. So I would absolutely go with Kyle.
Okay, Crow?
So, as usual, like my pick is pretty much what you would pick. So I'm going to pick someone else. And I think I'm going to go this. I have this strong urge to say Ross Chastain, but I'm not. I'm going to go.
No, it's multiple choice. No. Okay. No, I say of the multiple choice. Who much season would you rather have right now? Of Hamlin, Truex, or Larson?
That's actually tough. Probably Larson, for the same reason. There's just so much upside there, and so much to improve just because everything's new.
Yeah, I think I'd want to be Larson too, because you're getting in your car every week, knowing you probably have the best car, and you have that best car in a world without practice. So that's I mean, I'd be happy with that situation. So all right, so I picked Larson. Crow, who's your pick?
So I'd probably go with Martin Truex. Like I said, I have very strong urge to say Ross Chastain, like I usually do. But I don't know. I've just got a feeling like Martin Truex Jr. it's time for him to win again.
Okay, Thomas.
So I was gonna go with Truex, and I still think that's probably who it's gonna be, even though this is not a 750 horsepower track. But I'm going to go, like Crow said, I'll just pick somebody else. I like Blaney. I think that Blaney is on the verge of having one of those seasons that he's needed to have for a long time. And at some point, Blaney's going to have that multiple race win type season, right? And Keselowski potentially stepping out at Penske. He's moving up in rank there, right? Like, it's about time to live up to that. And he's got the speed on these 1.5 milers. I think if he can put it together and keep that speed over the final stage, I think he'll be a threat.
So, at this point, who do you think, just assuming Keselowski leaves and goes to Roush, who do you think is going to be in the 2? Is it Cindric? Is it Blaney? Benedetto? Who? So
$1 million question, right? Here's, I also wrote about this week, mid-season awards, front stretch, if you want to read it. I think Cindric, but it's the type of ride that people break contracts for, because it doesn't come around that often. I do think it seems pretty clear cut to me. Why would you not put Cindric in the 2? He's the son of the president. He's the reigning NXS champion. You keep DiBenedetto in the 21. There's some chemistry there. And then you ride it out with the 21 another year, see where it goes. But Cindric is not NASCAR's most popular driver. Cindric is like a Cole Custer in terms of personality, and everyone knows it.
Well, that's not fair. I think, hey, that's really not fair to Custer because he's come a long way.
He has come a long way. Remember interviews with Cole where he wouldn't talk?
Oh
basically,
my gosh.
like, yeah. I remember asking him a question, got like a 5-word answer. Like, it's really hard. But
yeah, those Truck Series days were rough. Those were rough. Kid, it's like, kid, do you want to be here? Like, what?
Yeah. So I mean, it's tough, but like, I don't know who it would be, and I haven't heard any crazy rumors, but who is in that ride depends how crazy the silly season is. If it's neat and tidy, and it's just, you put, even if you put Blaney in the 2, let's say, and then you put Cindric in the 12, just to give Blaney the name brand of the 2 car, then silly season's not going to be that crazy. Then DiBenedetto stays in the 21. Maybe you have an opening at Stewart-Haas, but Hendrick, everybody's signed to long-term deals. Gibbs, everybody's signed to long-term deals. The big teams don't move. If you get somebody crazy that's really good, that's just like, it's time, I need to break to Penske, I think I'm getting offered a heck of a lot of money, it's a great opportunity, then that could open up a lot of dominoes. Somebody like, I'm going to, total hypothetical, don't start tweeting at me that I'm just causing all this conspiracy theory. Somebody like a Kyle Busch or something, like, oh, I need a change, like somebody crazy good that you wouldn't expect, that would cause a lot of dominoes.
Can you imagine Kyle Busch taking over Brad Keselowski's ride?
Yeah. Oh my God. That's so many things there. So many things. So, it's not going to happen. But in terms of big driver switching, I mean, would anybody have thought that Dale Jr. would have knocked off Kyle Busch and Hendrick? No, right? So it's very rare that these types of openings are there.
Personally, if I had the choice, I would put Blaney in the 2 just because the 2 has the beer sponsor. And of all the guys who drive for Team Penske, he's the one who actually looks like drinks beer. Like he's the guy you'd want to get a beer with.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
It's like I remember when he won at Pocono for the first time. I remember just a picture of him celebrating, like arms. He looked like Tim Richmond. Like he looked like that kind of guy. And that it baffles me that he didn't have the beer sponsor, but Keselowski did. So that's who I would put in the 2 car. Even though they're only sponsored for beer for one race this weekend. It's this weekend. Keystone Light, right? I believe is the sponsor on the 2 this weekend. So here's your beer weekend, everyone.
So then who do you put in the 12? DiBenedetto or Cindric?
Oh, I'm pretty sure they want Cindric under completely the Penske umbrella. So yeah, put Cindric in the 12. So it's gonna be interesting once Cindric moves out of the 22 and Xfinity, what Penske does with that car, because I have no idea who they could put in that car at this point.
Yeah. Or would they want to? I think that's one of the big things with Xfinity right now. Xfinity is going to go on a renaissance this year, but it's become a farm system. And why do you need to reach into the farm system if NASCAR is trying to, if anything, curb more 4-car teams? So you wonder if Penske would ever expand beyond what there are now. And you got some drivers signed to long-term deals. And like Hendrick, it's another one. Where's Noah Gragson going to go in the Cup level if he gets really good and starts winning multiple races and all that? I mean, you got 400 guys that are signed to long-term deals.
Yeah, there's a lot of I don't know when all this is going to start happening. Surely, when the Keselowski news is ultimately revealed, that's when the hammer is dropped, and I'm going to end this show on a pun, so related to the title. So that's going to be it. So yeah, this has been it. Thank you, Tom, for coming by. Thank you guys for listening to Dropping the Hammer. Where can everyone find you, Tom?
NASCAR Bowls on Twitter and CBS Sports NASCAR section, or frontstretch.com. Did you notice on Wednesdays is when I usually write there, and Athlon Sports too. We have a partnership with them and send our content that way.
All right. Well, that's it. Say bye, Crow.
Goodbye, everyone.
All right. Coke 600 this weekend, Indy 500 this weekend. It's going to be, there's lots of racing, lots of practice, lots of qualifying. It's going to be a fun week. So yeah, I'm Daniel McFadin. This has been Dropping the Hammer with Daniel McFadin. Thank you for listening. Follow me on Twitter at Daniel McFadin. Email us at danielmcfadin@gmail.com. Follow us on YouTube at Daniel McFadin, or youtube.com/Daniel McFadin. Thank you guys and enjoy the weekend.